Jack had always been an ordinary man. He worked at a small office job on Earth, lived in a quiet neighborhood, and rarely found himself in situations where anything exciting ever happened. But today was different. Today, something strange was in the air. The Galactic terminal at New York City's spaceport was bustling with life. Alien species from all across the galaxy walked hurriedly past Jack, each with their own unique features. There were tall, thin beings with translucent skin, creatures with multiple eyes, and others with shimmering, metallic bodies. The bright neon lights and holographic signs made the place feel more like a futuristic city than a mere airport. Ships of all sizes and designs hovered above the ground, ready to take off for distant planets. Jack checked the time on his wrist communicator. His flight was scheduled to depart in less than 20 minutes, and he was still stuck in the crowded terminal. He'd been looking forward to this galactic trip for months. It was supposed to be a break from his routine, a chance to experience something new. But as he stood in line at security, he felt a strange sense of urgency. He had to hurry. He didn't want to miss this flight. It was the start of an adventure he'd always dreamed of. As he pushed through the crowd, trying to make his way to the boarding gate, something caught his eye. Near the side of the terminal, an elderly alien woman was struggling with a large, bulky suitcase. She was small and fragile-looking, her grayish-blue skin wrinkled, and her wide, round eyes seemed lost in the chaos around her. She struggled to lift the case, but it was far too heavy for her. Without thinking, Jack stopped and made his way over to her. He wasn't sure why, but something about the woman's demeanor struck him. She seemed out of place, like she didn't belong in this fast-paced, tech-driven world. Jack had always believed in helping others, no matter how small the task. "Excuse me, ma'am," he said, his voice soft but steady. "Let me help you with that." The alien woman turned to look at him, and for a moment, Jack saw a flicker of surprise in her eyes. Then, a gentle smile appeared on her face. "Thank you," she replied in a voice that sounded as though it had traveled across vast distances, carrying the weight of experience. "I'm afraid I'm not used to traveling in such a hurry," Jack smiled back, taking the suitcase from her. It was heavier than he'd expected, but he managed to lift it with ease. "No problem," he said. "It's quite the rush here. Where are you headed?" The woman looked at him, her eyes narrowing as if she was searching for something deeper in his face. "To a place far away," she said cryptically. "A place where people like me don't usually go. But I must get there, regardless of the odds." Jack was intrigued by her words. There was a mysteriousness about her, something he couldn't quite put his finger on. But before he could ask more, the loudspeaker in the terminal crackled. "Final boarding call for Flight Zeta 12, the robotic voice announced. "All passengers, please proceed to Gate 20 for immediately." Jack's heart sank. His flight. He glanced at the elderly alien. He had just helped her, and now he was about to miss his chance to leave Earth. His mind raced as he weighed his options. He could leave her behind and catch his flight, or he could stay and help her, risking missing the adventure of a lifetime. "I need to go," Jack said, looking down at the suitcase in his hands. "I'm really sorry, but my flight's about to leave." The alien woman didn't seem upset. Instead, she gave him a knowing look, almost as if she had been expecting this. "Don't worry, young one," she said, her voice calm and reassuring. "The galaxy will wait for you." Before Jack could protest, the woman gently waved her hand, and the heavy suitcase seemed to lighten, almost as if she had used some kind of power. Jack was stunned but didn't say anything. "You're a good person," she said with a smile. "Remember that." Jack quickly left the woman and ran toward Gate 24, his heart pounding in his chest. He reached the gate just in time to watch the last few passengers board the ship. He wasn't going to make it. Standing there, feeling the weight of his decision, Jack turned back to look at the elderly alien, but she was gone. He sighed, disappointed, but couldn't shake the feeling that something significant had just happened. Little did he know that simple act of kindness was going to change his life forever. Jack stood at the gate, staring at the sleek ship that was now pulling away from the terminal. He had missed it, the opportunity to leave Earth, to escape the mundane and explore the unknown, was slipping through his fingers. He had always dreamed of this moment, the moment when he could board a galactic ship, and journey to faraway planets to experience the stars up close. But instead, he was left standing there, watching his dream fade into the distance. Frustration bubbled up inside him, but it wasn't just the missed flight. It was something else, something strange, something he couldn't quite explain. He couldn't stop thinking about the elderly alien woman, the one he had helped moments before. There was an odd feeling that lingered in the air. It wasn't just gratitude that she had shown him, but something deeper. It was as if their brief encounter held more significance than he could understand. Jack turned around and walked aimlessly, his mind racing. He had never felt so out of place in all his life. The terminal was still alive with energy, full of travelers, both human and alien, going about their business. Yet, for some reason, everything seemed distant to him now, as though he had stepped into another world, a world he didn't belong to. His thoughts were interrupted by a soft voice behind him. "Excuse me, sir." He spun around to find the elderly alien woman standing there, holding the same heavy suitcase he had helped her with earlier. Her expression was calm, almost knowing, and she gave him a warm smile. I didn't expect to see you here," Jack stammered, still trying to process what had just happened. She nodded. "I didn't expect you to help me," she said simply, her voice filled with quiet wisdom. "But I see now that you are more than just a simple traveler." Jack raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean by that?" The woman looked around the terminal, as if making sure no one else was listening. "You may not know this yet," she began, her tone serious now, "but that flight you just missed, it was never meant for you." Jack stared at her, confused. "What are you talking about?" "I've been waiting for months to get on that flight. I've been dreaming of it for years." The woman smiled, though it wasn't the same warm smile from before. There was something more cryptic about it now, as though she knew something he didn't. "You weren't meant to leave Earth yet. Not on that ship." Jack was about to ask her what she meant when she handed him something. It was a small metallic card, unlike anything he had ever seen. It shimmered with an iridescent glow, almost as if it contained a piece of the stars themselves. "This is for you," she said, her eyes meeting his with an intensity he hadn't noticed before. "Take it and go to Gate 15 tomorrow. You will find your true path there." Jack hesitated, unsure whether to accept the strange card. "But I don't even know who you are. Why are you helping me?" The woman's eyes softened. "Because you helped me, young one. And in this galaxy, acts of kindness are never forgotten. You have a greater purpose than you realize." Before Jack could say anything more, the woman turned and walked away, disappearing into the crowd as effortlessly as she had appeared. He stood there, staring at the card in his hand, his mind spinning with questions. What had just happened? Was it all some kind of joke, or was there something more to this mysterious encounter? The terminal buzzed with life around him, but Jack felt a strange calmness settle in his chest. He didn't fully understand what had just occurred, but he couldn't shake the feeling that his life was about to change forever. And for the first time, he felt as if he was standing at the edge of something much larger than himself, something he had yet to comprehend. The journey ahead, whatever it might be, was only just beginning. The next day, Jack found himself standing in front of Gate 15, his mind racing with confusion and anticipation. He had barely slept the night before, his thoughts consumed by the strange encounter with the elderly alien woman and the mysterious card she had given him. What could it possibly mean? Why had she told him to come here? The gate was quieter than the others, tucked away at the far end of the terminal. There were no flashy signs or crowds, only a small, unmarked door with a shimmering light overhead. Jack felt a strange pull toward it, a sense of destiny he couldn't quite explain. He glanced at the time on his communicator. It was almost the exact moment the woman had told him to arrive. With a deep breath, Jack stepped forward and pressed his hand against the door. To his surprise, it slid open silently, revealing a sleek, polished hallway that seemed to stretch endlessly. There were no windows, no obvious path, just the faint hum of machinery far in the distance. The air smelled clean and metallic, like the inside of a spaceship. But there was something else, a hint of something ancient, something beyond the modern technology around him. Jack hesitated. Everything about this felt wrong, but at the same time, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was meant to be here. He stepped inside. The door closed behind him without a sound. and the lights along the hallway flickered on, casting long shadows across the walls. As Jack walked forward, his footsteps echoing in the eerie silence, he couldn't help but wonder what he had gotten himself into. The card in his pocket seemed to grow heavier with each step, its strange glow still faintly visible through the fabric. Then, suddenly, the hallway turned sharply to the left, and Jack found himself facing a large, circular room. The walls were lined with holographic screens, each displaying different star systems, galaxies, and planets he had never seen before. In the center of the room stood a tall figure, an alien, unlike any Jack had encountered on Earth. This one was humanoid, with sharp features, silver skin, and glowing blue eyes that pierced through the dim light. He stood perfectly still, as though waiting for Jack. The alien's voice, deep and resonant, echoed in the room. "You must be the one." Jack swallowed hard. "The one? What do you mean?" The alien nodded, his eyes never leaving Jack's face. "The one who helped her. The one who can take the next step." Jack's confusion only deepened. "I don't understand. I'm just a regular guy. I helped an old woman, that's it." The alien's expression softened slightly. "Your act of kindness set things in motion. You are not just anyone, Jack. You are part of something far greater than you realize." Before Jack could respond, the alien gestured to the holographic screens around them. Images of distant galaxies and strange, unknown civilizations filled the room. "This," the alien said, "is the network, the empire that controls the stars, and it needs a new leader." Jack's heart skipped a beat. "Leader? What do you mean?" "I'm no leader. I just wanted to leave Earth for a while." The alien's voice grew more intense. "The elderly one you helped is the head of this empire, but she is retiring. She has been searching for someone worthy of taking her place, someone with humility, compassion, and strength. You have those qualities, Jack." Jack was speechless, his mind struggling to comprehend the gravity of what the alien was saying. "You're telling me I'm supposed to take over the entire galaxy?" The alien smiled faintly, but there was no humor in it. "Not just the galaxy, Jack, the entire network, the empire that spans across billions of stars. The power you hold is beyond anything you can imagine." Jack stood frozen, the weight of the words pressing down on him. He had been thrust into something he never asked for, something so much larger than his life on Earth. But as he looked around the room, he began to feel a shift within himself, a sense of responsibility he hadn't felt before. The alien's voice broke through his thoughts. "The choice is yours, Jack. Will you accept the challenge and embrace your new role? Or will you walk away and return to your old life? The future of the empire depends on your decision." As the words hung in the air, Jack felt a rush of emotions flood through him: fear, excitement, confusion, and something else, something deeper. He didn't know if he was ready for this, but he knew one thing for sure: his life would never be the same again. Jack sat motionless, his mind swirling as the weight of the alien's words pressed down on him. The idea of leading an empire, ruling over a galaxy of countless planets and species, seemed impossible. He had never even held any leadership role on Earth. He was just a simple office worker, living an ordinary life. Yet here he was, standing in the heart of a massive, intergalactic empire, being offered the keys to its power. The alien, still watching him closely, seemed to sense Jack's inner turmoil. He spoke again, this time softer, almost coaxing. "It's not about power, Jack. It's about understanding. You don't need to become someone else. You simply need to realize who you already are." Jack felt a strange pull within him, as if something deep inside was awakening. He glanced around the room once more, the screens displaying endless star systems, each one connected by glowing lines of light that seemed to pulse with life. The network of planets, of civilizations, was vast and beautiful, but also fragile. If what the alien said was true, this entire empire needed a leader who could bring unity, who could steer it toward a future of peace and prosperity. But Jack wasn't sure if he was that leader. He had no experience, no knowledge of the complexities of galactic politics or the intricacies of running an empire. "What if I'm not the right person for this?" Jack asked, his voice trembling slightly. "I don't know anything about ruling the galaxy." The alien's blue eyes softened with understanding. "No one is born with the knowledge, Jack. Leadership is forged through choices, through experience. You've already demonstrated the one quality that matters most: compassion. The people of this empire need someone who cares for them, someone who sees beyond power and wealth. And that is why you have been chosen. As Jack absorbed the words, a sense of urgency began to build within him. The longer he stood there, the more he realized that there was no going back. Whether he accepted this role or not, his life had already been changed irrevocably. But the question still lingered: was he ready to take on the responsibility of an empire? Before he could voice his doubt, the alien reached out and placed a small, metallic device in Jack's hand. It felt warm, almost alive, humming with an energy that sent a shiver up his spine. "This is the key to the empire," the alien explained. "With it, you can access the council, the decision-making body of the network. You can see the problems they face, understand the needs of each world, and begin your path as the leader they've been waiting for." Jack stared at the device, feeling the weight of it, not just in his hand, but in his heart. This was real. It wasn't a dream or some elaborate trick. He had been pulled into something far bigger than he could have ever imagined. "You don't have to make any decisions right away," the alien continued, as if reading Jack's mind. "But remember, the longer you wait, the harder it will be to make your mark. The empire is already in motion, and it needs someone who can steer it in the right direction." Jack stood silently, turning the device over in his hand. The room felt colder now, the hum of the ship's systems louder, as if the universe itself was waiting for him to make a choice. Every part of him screamed to run back to Earth, to return to his ordinary life. But another part, a deeper part, urged him to step forward, to embrace this new role, this new destiny. "Okay," Jack finally said, his voice steady but filled with uncertainty. "I'll do it. I'll take the next step. I'll lead." The alien nodded, his expression unreadable. "Then, welcome to your new life, Jack. The galaxy awaits you." As Jack watched the alien disappear into the shadows, he felt the weight of his decision settle over him. There was no turning back now. The galaxy was vast, and his role in it had just begun. The moment Jack made his decision, everything changed. The air around him seemed to thrum with energy, like the universe itself had shifted, acknowledging his choice. As he stood there, still holding the metallic device, a strange calm washed over him. He wasn't sure what was ahead, but something inside told him that this was the beginning of something monumental. There was no turning back now. The alien had left him with more than just the device. He had left him with a sense of purpose, a burden that weighed heavily on his chest. Jack had always felt like he was meant for something more, but now, faced with the overwhelming responsibility of an entire galaxy, he couldn't help but wonder if he had made the right choice. Could he really lead such an empire? Could someone like him, just a regular human, truly guide countless species to a better future? Before he could question himself any further, the room around him began to change. The walls that had once been lined with holographic screens faded into darkness, and a new scene began to materialize. A bright, starry expanse appeared before him, stretching out infinitely. The holographic display showed planets, moons, and asteroids, all connected by thin lines of light that pulsed with life. It was a map of the entire network, a visual representation of the Empire's reach. As the stars seemed to swirl around him, a new voice filled the room, a deep, resonant sound that echoed like a distant thunderclap. "Welcome to the council chamber," it said. "You have accepted your role as the new leader. Now, you must begin to understand the challenges that lie ahead." Jack looked around, trying to make sense of the vision. He was still standing in the same room, but it felt as though he was now part of the galaxy itself. The stars around him shimmered, and the map of the Empire came to life, showing the various sectors, planets, and species that were under his rule. "You will now see the state of the Empire," the voice continued. "The council awaits your decisions." Suddenly, Jack was no longer alone. Figures began to materialize in the room, appearing out of the shadows. They were aliens of all shapes and sizes, each one standing silently, waiting for his attention. Some were humanoid, others completely alien in form, with shimmering skin, multiple limbs, or eyes that glowed in the dark. They were the council representatives of the different sectors and species that made up the vast empire Jack had inherited. A tall figure stepped forward, his skin a deep shade of green, and his eyes gleaming with intelligence. "You must decide, Jack," he said, his voice both welcoming and commanding. "What kind of leader will you be? The galaxy is vast, and it faces many threats. There are factions that wish to tear it apart, while others seek peace and prosperity. It is your choice whether to uphold the ideals of unity or to allow division to take root." Jack felt the weight of the council's gaze on him. The decisions he made now would shape the future of billions of lives. This was more than just a position of power, it was a responsibility, a test of character. As the council members silently observed, Jack's mind raced. He had never faced anything like this before. He was just a human, a simple man from Earth, thrust into a position that no one could have ever prepared him for. The room seemed to close in on him as the stars spun faster, the weight of his decision pressing down on his shoulders. He was now at the center of the galaxy's future, and every choice he made would reverberate across the stars. His heart pounded as the council waited for his answer, the universe holding its breath. Jack took a deep breath, his fingers tightening around the device in his hand. He was no longer just a passenger in this universe. He had become a force that could change its course. And with that thought, he knew one thing for certain: the true test was just beginning. Jack's mind was spinning as the weight of his new role began to sink in. The council members stood silently around him, their alien forms an ever-present reminder of the vast responsibility he now bore. He wasn't just a leader of a few planets or a small territory. He was the steward of an empire spanning billions of stars, countless species, and untold histories. The decisions he made now would ripple through the fabric of the galaxy, and the consequences would be far-reaching. The green-skinned alien who had spoken earlier stepped forward again, his voice calm but firm. "You must act quickly, Jack. The galaxy is not at peace. There are factions rising within the Empire. Some seek control, others seek freedom, and some are content to simply destroy what we've built. The longer you wait to make your presence known, the more difficult it will be to maintain balance." Jack nodded, trying to absorb the enormity of the situation. The Empire wasn't just a place of peace and prosperity, it was a volatile force, and it was being pulled in different directions by the various powers that vied for control. As he looked around the room, he saw the faces of the council members, each one representing a different faction, a different sector of the galaxy. Some of them looked at him with hope, others with suspicion, and a few with outright hostility. They were all waiting for him to take charge, but Jack had no idea how to steer this massive ship. Before he could respond, a new figure entered the room. She was a humanoid alien, her skin translucent and glowing with a soft blue light. Her eyes were large and almond-shaped, and her voice, when she spoke, was like a whisper carried on the wind. "The choices you make, Jack, will define the future of the galaxy. But you must understand this: every choice comes with a sacrifice. There are forces at work that would prefer chaos over peace, and they will stop at nothing to see you fail." Jack's heart raced. What kind of forces was she talking about? Who were these enemies lurking in the shadows? The more he learned, the more he realized that this wasn't just about leadership. This was a fight for the very soul of the galaxy. "The resistance is growing," the blue-skinned alien continued, "and there are those within our own ranks who would rather see the Empire burn than see it united under your rule. They will try to exploit your every weakness, Jack, and they will strike where you least expect it." The words hit him like a cold wave. He had thought that once he took the reins, everything would fall into place. But now he understood this was far more complicated than he had imagined. There were factions within the Empire itself that would work against him, that would manipulate and twist the situation to their advantage. He wasn't just facing external threats, but internal ones as well. He had to decide which battles to fight and which to let go. The council members shifted uncomfortably, and Jack could feel the tension in the room. Everyone was watching him, waiting for him to act. The future of the galaxy hung in the balance, and the pressure was almost unbearable. He couldn't afford to make mistakes. "Not now," the green-skinned alien spoke once more, his voice steady but laced with urgency. "You have the power to shape the galaxy's future, Jack, but you must choose wisely. It is time to decide: will you stand for unity, or will you let the Empire fracture into chaos? The decision is yours." Jack's fingers tightened around the device in his hand. The weight of the galaxy was pressing down on him. But he knew one thing. He couldn't afford to wait any longer. The galaxy needed a leader. And whether he was ready or not, Jack had to rise to the challenge. It was time to take the first step into the unknown. The room felt heavier now, as if the very air had thickened with the weight of Jack's decision. The holographic map of the galaxy still glowed before him, its intricate lines and vibrant planets a constant reminder of the vast empire now under his charge. But it wasn't just the map that held his attention, it was the faces of the council members, their eyes fixed on him, waiting for him to speak, to make the next move. Jack took a slow, steady breath. His hands trembled slightly, but his mind was clearer than it had been since he first walked into this chamber. He had been thrust into this position, and the more he thought about it, the more he realized that there was no turning back. The galaxy was in turmoil, and while he might not have chosen this fate, he had the power now to shape its future. Unity, he said, his voice carrying a firmness that surprised even him. The galaxy will remain united, or we will rebuild it until it is. The council stirred, some nodding in agreement, others watching him with a mix of skepticism and curiosity. Jack could see that his words had resonated, but the real test was yet to come. He wasn't just speaking to these alien beings. He was speaking to the Empire itself, to every planet, every species, and every soul under his rule. The decision he had made wasn't just a political one, it was a moral one. You have to understand. Jack continued, stepping forward. This empire can't thrive if it's divided. Too many factions, too many lies, too many agendas pulling it apart. If we don't focus on what binds us together, we'll fall into chaos. I won't let that happen. Not on my watch. A murmur ran through the council. Some seemed impressed by his resolve, others more doubtful. Jack could feel the tension, but he pressed on. We can rebuild, we can heal, and we can create something that lasts. A united galaxy where peace isn't just a dream, but a reality. He glanced at the device still clasped tightly in his hand. The same device that had opened this door to a new life. It pulsed softly with energy, almost like it was alive. Jack didn't just hold the key to the Empire's future, he held the future of every being in the galaxy. And that responsibility could no longer be ignored. The blue-skinned alien who had first greeted him stepped forward again. His eyes locked onto Jack's. Your words are bold, Jack, but do you truly understand what you are asking of yourself? The factions that threaten the Empire won't back down easily. They won't simply accept a leader because he tells them to. You must prove yourself. You must lead with strength, with wisdom, and with compassion. Jack met his gaze, feeling the weight of those words settle deep within him. He had no illusions about the challenges ahead. This wasn't going to be easy, but it was what needed to be done. I'll prove it, Jack said, his voice steady, not just with words, but with actions. I may not have been born into this, but I will fight for it. I'll fight for the galaxy we deserve. The council members looked at each other, their expressions unreadable, but Jack could sense the shift in the room. He had spoken his truth, and that truth resonated with something in them. Perhaps they hadn't expected him to be so sure, so willing to take on this immense challenge. But Jack knew one thing for certain: he was ready. The blue-skinned alien nodded, a rare hint of approval in his gaze. Then we have much work to do, Jack. The Empire is yours, but the road ahead will test you. Are you ready? Jack took a deep breath and looked out at the stars that stretched endlessly before him. This wasn't just a role he had been given, it was a calling. And whatever challenges lay ahead, he was ready to face them. I'm ready, he said, his voice echoing in the silence of the chamber. And in that moment, he knew without a doubt that he had made the right choice. The galaxy was waiting, and he was ready to lead it into a new era.